back in 2010, I did an experiment where I gained 35 kilos, 70 pounds on purpose, basically to show that if you could somehow personalize your nutrition, your lifestyle, you could easily lose it back without too much effort, and I did. You see, this is where personalization comes in. Like, you need to find the right balance to find what's the perfect optimum for you.
Around Hindi,
Hello.
there is a subspace, a growing space, which I noticed, which is longevity as a sport.
Yep.
People started competing with each other on these ever-improving biological aging clocks. And you're doing pretty well.
Yep.
You are 14th. I actually didn't check today, but anyway, with a 0.68 of Dunedin pace. So what are you doing here in longevity?
So I did a PhD in 2007, a long time ago. My PhD was actually something called bioinformatics. So applying AI machine learning to biology to do things like analyze your genome, predict likelihood of diseases. So if you look at biological clocks, they're actually simple machine learning models that take a whole bunch of data and try to predict your biological age or mortality likelihood, right? Very similar space to what I was working on at the time of my PhD. So I've always had a very strong interest in bio, not just in cryptography, computer science, AI. After I decided to work on my AI company, at some point I was thinking, okay, what if we try to rethink a little bit of how we do health? So back in 2010, I did an experiment where I gained 35 kilos, 70 pounds on purpose, basically to show that if you could somehow personalize your nutrition, your lifestyle, you could easily lose it back without too much effort, and I did. So I went from 70 to 105 and back down to 70 something. And all I did was find what worked for me specifically. So that was, if you want, like the first time that I really started to get into, I wouldn't say biohacking, but quantified self and sort of self-improvement, like personalized type of medicine. I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, why do people think that everything applies to everyone? Like, we have to go much deeper. We have to start doing self-experimentation. We have to gather as much data as possible. So for years, for about a decade, I started tracking every single thing I could. Everything, man. Sleep, food, supplements, sex, everything I could was in this massive database, 200 data points per day. I would do like blood tests all the time. Like, so I look at Brian Johnston and I'm laughing because I'm like, I did that, just minus the extreme therapies he's trying, but at least on the quantifying self, I've got this data. And one thing I noticed is that simple things are incredibly powerful. And if you don't do those simple things, no matter how advanced the therapy is, it's not going to bring you much benefit. So what are the simple things? Eat well, sleep well, exercise, don't drink, don't smoke, and have friends. There's a sixth one, right? These 6 things alone, you need to get those 6 things fixed. And then you can start going into, supplements, biotech, hyperbaric oxygen therapies, all of those kind of things. But there is no point doing that until you fix those initial things. So my protocol is very simple. My protocol is, 5-6 days a week of like super on point sleep, food, lifestyle, right? And then on weekends, I'll eat healthy because I don't like junk food anyway, but I'm not going to think about it. If I want to go out with my friends and have a glass of wine, I'll have a glass of wine. If I want to go and have a pizza, I'll have a pizza. But I'll do that infrequently. And then I do a bunch of supplements, of course, as well. So I'm not really doing anything that's like crazy, right? I'm probably doing like 20% of what Brian is doing, but those 20% is enough to be like in the top 1% of best longevity performers.
Right. I interviewed Annie N, who's the second after Brian Johnson. I'm not sure I want to go into this, but arguably she should be the first because Brian is doing 21 tests a year, and that gives him quite an advantage. So actually interviewed many longevity athletes, perhaps over 30 at this point. That's what I've been doing since Wasabi. And that's exactly what you just said. Sleep, exercise, eat well, these basics. Like, there is really nothing else. Come on, there are even people who are not taking supplements.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
there are
it's
very
not genetics. It's not genetics because I was wondering about that. So I tested my
yeah.
parents, and my parents don't have as good a score as I have. So genetics
Mhm.
is not the cause, right? It's 100% interventions and lifestyle behind it.
So on the Longevity World Cup, we use Pheno age for this year. We change every year, but for this year, Pheno age. And for Pheno age, I had to when go really deep into the code, right? How this really works. And it became clear to me that obviously you can improve your glucose, obviously you can improve your creatinine and stuff like that. Like, that those things are not genetically affected. Perhaps they are affected, but
Actually, creatine is. I discovered that my dad and myself, we have a fairly high creatinine level because we have a kidney that's smaller than the other,
uh-huh.
right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
just born that way. So for us to reduce our creatinine, we have to dramatically reduce our protein intake. But if you reduce your protein intake too much, you lose muscle.
Mm-hmm,
Right? So
mm-hmm,
like it's you see, this is where personalization comes in. Like you need to find the right balance to find what's the perfect optimum for you. So for me, for example, I tried man doing like 250 grams of protein a day. It would just destroy me because my kidneys couldn't deal with it. So I went down to like 100 grams a day, which any kind of athlete would tell you is way too little for someone of my size, but is the optimal for me. Is the optimal in terms of muscle mass versus kidney effort on metabolizing that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You see, there was something that you just said a while ago, which was about your experiment of gaining a lot of weight. And I talked about you before in this show, and I didn't connect the dots that it's you, but you actually did something I called an anti-blueprint experiment.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah. So my goal at the time is I wanted to basically start a company doing a personalized nutrition and personalized medicine. It was back in 2010. The problem is I was fit. And so people looked at me, they're like, dude, you're fit. What are you talking about? You don't understand what it means to be overweight. I'm like, fine, you know what? I'll get fat, then I'll lose it again, and I'll prove my point. you know, Sample of n equal 1, and I was motivated. So obviously this doesn't mean, anything scientifically, but it did work. So my entire protocol, that was tough, man. It was really tough putting that much weight in a year. It's like I put it in a year, right? It took me a year to gain 70 pounds at 35 kilos. Eating junk food all the time, mixing carbs and fats all the time. This is really important, by the way. Usually the body doesn't like to have two sources of energy, either pick carbs or pick fats, but having both is not a good idea. Uh, I would eat just before going to bed. I would get tired, and just before going to bed, I would eat like a burger, right? Because then my body would literally it would burn 0 calorie, right? So it would go straight into being fat. I was doing that, and at some point, my mom came to me and she's like, "I'm begging you, stop. Like, stop. Like, you're proving your point. Like, that's bad for your health." And it was getting really bad for my health. And so I went the other way around and basically did a fairly basic protocol at the time. But it was such a contrast to what I had been doing for a year that my body just like reversed it super, super fast. And then a few years later, I did the opposite. I was like, it was normal. And I was like, you know what? I want to get ridiculously fit. So like I spent 3 months doing extreme protocols, like eating like to the calorie and macro exactly all the time, 24/7, 7 days a week, hitting the gym 12 hours a week, like super hardcore. It worked. I was like ripped and extremely fit, but not sustainable if you want to have a life. But I've tried both. So I've tried, the anti-blueprint, and then I've tried the extreme transformation into a six-pack shredded athlete.
So, what would you say to someone hearing about this, that you were doing this intentionally for 1 year, and they would
Do it.
call it?
Don't do it. Bad idea. Don't do it. Trust me, don't do it. Nothing. I've done it. You don't want to go there.
Excellent. All right. We just talked so much about the basics, but you see, right now we have the biological aging clocks. These biological aging clocks are like the bottleneck of longevity, because we can't measure how long people are gonna live, right? We have to measure something else. And the biological aging clocks are the imperfect attempt to measure those things. Okay, and then people start to compete on these things, and then we can see what kind of people are doing really well in these biological aging clocks. And you just said, well, it's basically the people who do all the basics right.
Not just. I think the basics get you a big part of it, but you also need to fine tune some extra protocols on top if you want to really start to break through. I think breaking under like 0.8 requires more than just lifestyle.
Okay, I wonder. Yeah.
I can tell you what I tried. I mean, I tried so many things. So for supplements, for example, so I do a lot of research. I love my favorite pastime is reading medical papers and basically looking at pathways, molecular pathways in the body and trying to figure out, oh, that's an interesting target to try and modify. Right. So like I'll hang out on some weird subreddits where people are trying all kinds of really crazy shit, man. And I'll look at how people talk about it and be like, oh, interesting. That could be an interesting off-label, experiment. So my stack I'm trying right now, uh, I think no matter what you do, the past 35, 40, you need some kind of NAD booster. I think that's a prerequisite in many supplement stacks. I've tried NMN, I've tried NR, tried everything. The one that I found to be the best and the most the highest impact is calcium alpha ketoglutarate, AKG.
Really?
Yeah,
That boosts NAD?
incredible. Yeah, I mean, they're all parcel like your Krebs cycle, basically. So AKG, calcium AKG, incredibly potent at energy metabolism. I found it way better than NMN, which, by the way, NMN and NR, if you're susceptible to anxiety, not a very good idea. I find that it raises anxiety level because it's basically
Mm.
a little bit too accessory. AKG doesn't do that. So AKG by far number one, I would
Or
say.
you measure your NAD levels, so
Yeah,
that's
I
how
do.
you
I
know.
do. I use Infinity. The second thing I do is I do sulforaphane, so broccoli extracts, right? Great
Hmm.
antioxidant. I do that every day. I do very high dose of flavonoids. So I tried a bunch of different things. The one I'm trying right now is an extract of like citrus peel, extremely high flavonoid content, and very good for blood flow. So I found that anything that helps basically regulate blood flow and helps with vascularization has a very high impact on longevity. And it kind of makes sense, right? Because your blood is what carries nutrients to all your cells. So, if you don't get your blood
Yep.
to work well, you're not getting the supplements and the nutrients to where they should be. I've also discovered something incredible. I'm surprised people don't talk about that more. It's called DAO, diamine oxidase. Diamine oxidase is what breaks down histamine in your body. Many people that have gut issues, hay fever, allergies, right, actually have a DAO problem somewhere, histamine intolerance, all of that. So I started supplementing high doses of DAO, and man, wow. Oh my God. No longer any kind of allergies to pollens, gone, gone completely, right? I can go and I can sniff a flower,
What
nothing can
dose?
happen. Huh?
What doses? Do you remember?
You have to look at different brands. The one I use is called Nature DAO on Amazon. You can buy it, and I get like 1 million units. That's like their dose in it, which is roughly 100 times more than other DAO supplements. So pollen allergies gone. I tried it on my brother. My brother, his whole entire life, he's been taking antihistamines because of
Mm-hmm.
that. Started taking that, hasn't touched antihistamine since. Gut issues, if you have any kind of leaky gut inflammation, histamine intolerance, gone. It's insane. Like, I think this is one of the most under talked about supplements, and it fixes so many things, so many things. Your body just like, it chills a bit more, you know? It chills a bit more. So you see, I'm trying to find very highly targeted supplements for problems that I identified I had. I'm not just doing like a bulldozer, take everything, see what happens. I'm doing like very, it's like precision supplementation for a given thing that I'm trying to go through right now. And it might change in 6 months, it might change in a year. This is what I'm doing now.
Okay, okay. So DEO?
DAO, diamine oxidase.
Uh-huh. All right. Because I'm
Not
interested
to
in that.
confuse with blockchain DAOs.
Oh yeah, DAO.
Different kind of DAO.
Different DAO. Yeah, one that actually works.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I had some allergy problems. Not that much this year, pollen allergies, right? This year was pretty good. I'm not quite sure why. I'm doing some immunotherapy, perhaps that
Yeah,
started to
better.
finally work. But yeah, whatever. This is something that I will definitely look up. Okay, okay. You also said you're venture capitalist.
Mhm.
Is that so? Venture? Am I using the terminology right here?
Well, I'm not a VC in the sense that I don't invest other people's money, I invest my own money. So I'm more of like an angel investor, but I'm like a professional angel investor, if you want.
And I checked out some of the companies on your list, and
Yeah.
one is that I'm very interested in because I spent 3 months there. Is Vitalia, or right
Mm,
now it's Infinita,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
How that came about?
Well, I mean, I'm super interested in network states. As you can see, I've invested in quite a few of them. And, I mean, Vitalia Infinita is obviously a network state slash pop-up city for longevity. So I just thought, I want to be part of it. I think network states are the future countries, right? But instead of being physically in one place, they're kind of decentralized, distributed online. And I want to be part of those emerging states, cultures, as much as I can. So if it's longevity related, even better, man.
Good, good. Yeah, by the time people are listening to this episode, I think perhaps the previous one or the one before is going to be with Niklas, who's the
Nice.
main person behind Infinita. Yeah, so they will be familiar with this conversation. And the other one that I was interested, in fact, I'm very interested in it right now because I have to choose a new biological aging clock for the next
Mhm.
season, which is, you might even guessed it, Glycan age.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, great company, great company. So if you look at biological aging, there are many, many, many different ways and things that you can measure. So Dunedin Pace, what Brian uses for his leaderboard, right? I like it because it's a way to measure your likelihood of dying. And from that, you can estimate your pace of aging. It doesn't take into account your actual age as a parameter, which, by the way, is the problem with phenoage. I think phenoage is a good clock, but your age is a parameter. So
Mhm.
even though your biology hasn't changed since you're 20, you're just going to have a higher score just because of the age component in it. Horvath, same problem. Horvath was trained with age as a target, not with mortality rate as a target. So I think in general, you want to use a clock which doesn't use age as a target or as a parameter in the clock. True diagnostics, so Dunedin Pace, so all the second and third generation clocks are like that now. Glycan age is interesting because it's very different. It doesn't calculate based on epigenetics, which is what most people do. they look at something called glycans. Glycans is, think of it as a kind of a hairy, furry, balls that are on your cells. And the way that those things are populating your cells is strongly correlated with all kinds of different diseases. So, for example, if you take something like prostate cancer, if you do the PSA blood test, the PSA blood test has an accuracy of roughly 60%. If you take the PSA with the glycans on it and you measure that, it goes to over 90% accuracy, right? So it's interesting because it's like it's the same as DNA and epigenetics. People initially thought everything is DNA, then they realized that epigenetics was important. So how much your DNA is expressed, not just what genes you have. Glycans is that for the rest of your body, right? It's this additional kind of component that gives you another clue of how to interpret your biology. So they use that for a biological age, which is mostly measuring inflammation age, so inflammaging. But from that, they also can derive a whole bunch of different things. What is your likelihood of developing XYZ disease? How susceptible are you to lupus, to autoimmune diseases? So they're now starting to get into more advanced medical outcomes. Great company, product is great, one of the best user experience for actually doing the tests, which is awesome. And Nina, the founder, is awesome. Her dad is actually the one who pretty much invented and discovered glycans. Super OG famous researcher in the space. So it's like family. It's like a whole family thing to work in that industry. She'd be someone great to talk to as well, by the way.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you to contact me with them, both for just generally in the show, and perhaps that could be the next year's longevity World Cup, a biological aging cup.
Highly recommended.
What I also have, I might be misremembering, but perhaps I had a guest in this show who said that glycan age can be easily moved by doing something. Is that?
So yeah, so that's another point, right? So different clocks have different sensitivity to protocols. So for example, phenoage is very easy to modulate, right? You can change phenoage in 2 weeks, 1 week even of protocols, because it measures a kind of rapidly changing biomarkers, what's in your blood. Glycan age takes a little bit longer. I think glycan age is a good way to measure, I'd say, like a few weeks of protocols, because inflammation can modulate pretty quickly. So I think you can influence glycan age pretty quickly and know whether what you're doing now is good. Dunedin pace is much harder to move. What I found is that it takes 6 to 8 weeks of protocol to make Dunedin pace move. So if you do something for a week or two, it's not going to have much of an impact on your Dunedin pace. You're going to have to sustain it for 6 to 8 weeks. So it depends on what you're trying to optimize. Glycan age is good because you can try more things during the year because you have a faster feedback loop. Unit pace is good, but the feedback loop is so long that you can only really try 2 or 3 protocols per year to see how it impacts your biological age there. There's like a very long lag between you doing it and seeing the result.
Yeah. Oh, all right. All righty. I guess one bonus question here. I saw you were also in the Forbes 30 under 30 list. How did that make you feel?
Long time ago. I want to give a disclaimer about that. I wasn't at 30 under 30 when there was only 30 people in it and when it was actually legit to be in it. Today, 30 under 30 is just a mess, right? There's like 500 people in it and it's basically pay to play, right? If you're friends with them and you pay for it, you're going to get on the thing. So I want to be very clear. I do not endorse or associate with what Forbes is doing now with 30 under 30. At the time when I was in it, which was 15 years ago, almost 12 years ago, it was still legit.
I see. I see. I was in the Hungarian one, but I didn't pay for it.
And I'm not saying everybody does. I'm just saying that, yeah, it's different.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. It was the first time when my friends and family started to like write to me that, hey, you're actually doing something something meaningful here.
In my previous company, I used to do a lot of press and media. Now I'm a little bit more discreet. I like to talk about things I really want to talk about. Put on less of a show. I don't really care that much anymore about prizes. What I care about is interesting people, building cool stuff, and trying to be as impactful as I can in my area of business. And longevity, I'm passionate about it for myself because I just love living, man. That's it, period. And I want that to last as long as I can. And so that's why I'm doing it. That's why I invest in longevity. So anyone building a cool longevity company, get in touch. Like, I'd love to be your first check in that. Anything related to it, I'd love to support.
Rantindi, it was a pleasure talking to you. I think I found a partner in crime here.
That's a lot of overlap. Thank you for having me.